Hi, I'm Conrad Putsier. I'm a reporter with The Real Deal, and I'm here with Amol Sarva. He's the co-founder and CEO of Notel, one of the most active flexible office space companies in the city. Welcome, Amol. First question has to be about your sweatshirt. It says Grave Dancer. What's the message here?
I met this guy recently who I think a lot of people admire, Sam Zell, and he told me the story about how he got his nickname, the Grave Dancer. Mm-hmm. Number one, he gave it to himself. Number two, by being long on cash before the crash. And if you watch what he's been up to the last year or two, this guy's long on cash.
We can talk about that in a minute, but let's start with your background. So you have an interesting background. You have a philosophy PhD from Stanford. How did you get from there to running Notel? Was it always your idea that you'd become an entrepreneur, or was that sort of a coincidence?
When I was a student at Columbia, I studied philosophy, and I tried to start some startups when I was a student too. I had a few little things, like one of them was sort of like a seamless Grubhub company. I made the first online ordering for pizza ever for Domino's in like 1995 for the local Domino's, and we took it to headquarters. And as I did that is when I did bump into my first really interesting and big opportunity that turned into a huge business, Virgin Mobile. So I bumped into a guy, he's like, I want to start this company, mobile phone business. I'm like, awesome. I worked on a bunch of little things that were sort of like that. Let's do it together. And that became Virgin Mobile. Changed my whole, career.
So you have no real estate background. What made you want to get into the office space?
So after like 15 years of starting companies and building them and working with entrepreneurs at different stages and myself running my own businesses, I noticed that the perennial and annoying problem of just like how to set up, expand, and change your business had a emerging solution. That was the office. And so I just took an office that was way bigger than I needed. I had 10,000 square feet for like 4 people, and I shared it with some other people, a bunch of other companies, and I watched them growing and shrinking and moving and shifting. And after doing that for a bit, my co-founder Edward and I, we actually realized that the office itself was a very interesting opportunity to address. Other entrepreneurs weren't really doing it. There was a bunch of like co-working stuff going on. And we thought, well, co-working is like a little sliver of the market. What about the entire market? And in fact, that's what we set out to go after with Notel.
So you don't call yourself a co-working company. Why not? What's the difference between Notel and a co-working company?
It's totally different. The meaning is different from what companies want when they want a headquarters. The vast majority of companies, actually the vast majority of labor in the economy works in companies, and the vast majority of those jobs are in companies' offices, like an office. Companies are not in little boxes.
So you're not targeting freelancers and people who work by themselves, you're targeting small companies.
I think it's really all companies. And where we're at now is companies of a few hundred head count choose us because they get more flexibility, they save money, and they get a better overall experience from someone who's an expert at running a great office with a great culture, great environment, great systems, services, efficient cost structure. They get that from us, but they get it in the package of their headquarters, their brand for their talent and their companies and their investors and the identity they want to present. The body shop is not seeking to work under the blinking neon light of somebody's like bro deco design. Mm-hmm. That's not what they want. They want a customized, tailored, made to measure experience that is the body shop. But they're a bunch of designers and beauty and healthcare and global marketing people. They're not like buildings and operations people. Well, that's what we've built a capability for.
So you partner with landlords, you sometimes sign leases, you sometimes sign management agreements. Has it been difficult to convince landlords to partner with you?
When we were small, a brief 12 months ago, it was hard to even get building owners to talk to us. Now that we're getting bigger, we are a meaningful tenant here in town for landlords, and they want us to be there. We fill spaces fast with very little ask from them. And what traditional co-working type people do is they say, oh, give me multiple years of free rent, give me multiple years of TI, build this crazy convoluted glass box beehive thing for me so that I can then operate it if I want to and if I'm around in the years in the future. That's what they say. Mm-hmm. What we say is, you have office, it needs to run in a more modern way. Normally you make your companies do that. That's annoying. Let us make it run in a modern way. And we'll open it almost instantly with very little ask from you, which means the vacancy period, the free rent period, the TI investment from them is minimal. This is a value proposition these guys really love. The part that they can't do, the part that they come to us really for is the demand generation side. Normally, if they decide, I don't need these guys, I'm just going to put it through brokerage and list it somewhere, well, they're going to sit on a bunch of vacancy.
Does this also hedge your downside risk? You don't take on expensive leases?
We both have downside risk. We all have downside risk in the market. The lenders, the owners, and we as the operators, we all have it. And the most fragile and brittle way to try to play the game on downside risk is to write a lease with some company that everyone says is worth lots of money and hope that they'll pay that lease, no matter come what may. Hope that they'll be able to make the payments on that lease, even in a high vacancy environment. That's, I think, the most fragile and brittle way.
You're referring to WeWork's business model.
That type of business, yeah.
One of your biggest competitors is WeWork, which of course everyone knows. They just raised $4.4 billion from SoftBank. I think they're at more than $6 billion now in venture funding. How do you compete with a company that just has so much money?
I mean, every customer situation that we've had for, 4 months or something, since we noticed that they noticed us, I guess by parking a bus in front of the WeWorks all around town that says graduate from co-working, we got their attention.
You have to tell the story.
Maybe a school bus that makes fun of the children that work in WeWorks was a little bit of a...
So you took a school bus, you painted Notel's brand name on it, and you parked it outside the WeWork headquarters.
And with the words graduate from co-working.
Uh-huh. And it was very clearly designed as a message to WeWork.
Yeah, to like the bros that are hanging out doing keg stands at WeWork. At some point their company will be real, and they may like to move on up to the right situation. So in the 3 or 4 months since they noticed our bus, it must be actually... It wasn't the bus that got their attention. I went and looked inside our customer list. Virtually every one of the biggest customers that they ever had graduated from co-working. Mm-hmm. And I see them in our platform. We didn't go hunting for them.
We were customers first, then they became Notel customers.
Yeah, I see a bunch of them in there. And when they came and started poaching and trying to like infiltrate our security and shop inside our company, and sent marketing offers to like virtually every one of our customers, they said, come and work at WeWork for free for a year. So they were making like $1 million, $2 million completely free office deals. So they had a product that was on 100% discount offered to our companies.
And did they offer this to every single one of your tenants, or just
virtually everyone? Yeah, I mean everyone that I bothered to check. Mm-hmm. And
how many did you lose to this offer?
We lost 0 companies.
Really?
We lost a team of 4 people, which is arguably a loss, yes. But all the $1 million companies, they stayed. They paid us the $1 million instead of paying nothing to stay in a product that doesn't work for them.
Are you worried, though, that WeWork is just going to keep doing this? They have a lot of money, right? In theory, they could go to every one of your tenants for the next 10 years and say, come to WeWork, we're going to give you free rent.
It's a waste of their time to focus on us. They are competing with the audience for this video. They want to steal the customers that are the revenue-producing, lease-signing, small companies in all these pre-builts that all the owners here in New York and other large markets have been building. And so, yeah, they're the competition for them, and we are the partner. Mm-hmm. We don't seek to reshape your building into some party scene. We seek to operate it for you so it generates more money with less brain damage for you.
So WeWork allegedly spied on you, tried to poach your tenants. You parked a bus outside of WeWork's HQ. What's your relationship?
Allegedly. We allegedly parked a bus in front of them as well.
And
yeah.
There's photos of that. Are you working with like some big national landlords on their office portfolios?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. I mean, what I see there is the behavior of large institutional owners starting to get worried, thinking, oh, let me like source a solution. And that's awesome, because I guess it finally got to, headquarters that they ought to lift a finger and do something. Number 2, what I see in that behavior is they're just hunting for tenants. They mention a bunch of names where tenants are going to just do leases with them. They're going to do high TI, like this convene commercial space conferencing build out, and they're going to do term, and then these guys are going to update.
Convene is another company that you guys maybe compete with in like the flexible.
Yeah, no, I mean,
startup.
They definitely should pour coffee and have desks, but the heart of that business is conferencing and events, and I think it's a very nice business. They started like 9 years ago. They clearly were like visionary in the change of the way the buildings and amenities work. It's a cool business. It's not like us, but they write leases, and so they're just like a new class of tenant that I believe these owners would like to have around, and they have whatever reasons they want them there.
So you have no interest in managing retail spaces or catering or anything like that?
Yeah, catering. Come on.
You don't want to do that?
No.
Why not?
There are many cool opportunities in the world. If you're a first-time founder and you find yourself on a rocket ship and everything's rolling, I can really sympathize with the situation of some of these entrepreneurs who just want to do everything because, now they have some money, they want to start a incubation lab and all this crap. I have done a bunch of things, and I've had a lot of different opportunities to be involved in exciting and interesting companies, and I know how important it is to figure out the model that works and then just make it vast.
So while WeWork tries to get into a bunch of different businesses, you really just try to focus on one business? Yeah,
office is a huge stack. It's just like a limitless potential market. And to focus only on new build would be a waste of time because there's not that much new build. And to focus on all these other adjacent categories would be missing the depth of the opportunity. New York is 500 million square feet of office. The Uber business plan on the first day was a national taxi market of 10 billion in the country. We're looking at a market just in New York, which is 50 billion that's addressable. And I think there's probably 10 cities of that order of magnitude that will be in the years to come, and that is just a vast opportunity that we will work to capture.
So you're basically saying Knotel could become more viable than Uber?
Yeah, it should be. I mean, there's a lot more spend on office than there is on taxis.
Yeah. But what's your ceiling? I mean, where do you see Knotel 10 years from now? How big will the company be? What's sort of your goal?
It's going to take a long time to get to the majority of the market being controlled by brands like ours. But there is a ton of office, and if we get to 1 or 2 or 3% of it in the coming years, this is going to be a vast global enterprise.
Mm-hmm. Are you working on any more funding rounds? I think you've raised 25 million to date, right?
We announced 25 million in equity that we had raised, and we're going to raise more money because it's going to take a lot of money to make this business as big as it should be. And interest has been colossal. I mean, like these big old school real estate guys are like, oh my God, we're going to miss again. It's as if, all the real estate guys that watched WeWork and thought they missed out. It's as if Walmart missed its chance to invest in Amazon in 1994 and then just thought, oh, well, I missed it. If WeWork's an improvement on Regus, our model is fundamentally superior to this co-working model for operating office because they only address a small part, because they're very capital intensive to convert the use of a normal office into this co-working thing. So for the other 99% of office, this really efficient way that we manage and improve the earnings on property, I think that's going to be the model. But you can't do it if you only own 10 million feet. You're too small. We will be bigger than the 10 million square foot monolith in terms of property managed in like 18 months, 24 months, like not that long.
So you're under pressure to grow quickly.
I think the pressure is just the opportunity. It's not like anybody needs us to. We could just stop. We'd have a small business. I could open a dry cleaner and be happy meeting my customers all day. But the intention here is to build a vast global enterprise. And to do that, yes, more places, more scale.
Mm-hmm. And so you mentioned you're getting into ground-up construction. Can you talk about what the appeal is and what your first project will be like?
Yeah, so we are doing a first property in Brooklyn where we're building 150,000 square feet with some partners. One is like a developer and one is the property owner as our partners. And we're building an hotel. Mm-hmm. So it's a part of Brooklyn where there's no office. It's Gowanus, which is just between two great residential neighborhoods. If you sit and look at the map today and try to like lease it up and try to get some large customer in there, it won't happen. But the beauty of the Knotel model is anywhere that office can work, Knotel works. Knotel works better. Its yields are higher. And so I know that when that building is done, it'll be a fantastic and highly productive property for us.
So you're taking the entire building?
Yeah, we'll run the whole thing. Probably by the time it's done, all the names of all the Knotel companies that are going to use the space will be in there.
Right.
But for now, we know exactly how to run an office. We're running 30 buildings around town, and we've built and launched. We're building launching like 5 or 6 a month or something. We will do a better job than the architects who build like one building every 5 years, in implementing and operating that building. So we're going to add a ton of value into the planning and design process. We're going to add a ton of value with our brand, and then we'll bring our demand generation into the place, and it'll sing and dance when it's done.
So there's an interesting change in accounting rules. It's going to happen by 2019. Basically, what's going to happen is publicly traded companies will have to list their leases as liabilities, but there's a loophole. So if you're taking space at a co-working company or a company like Knotel, under certain conditions, that lease won't be a liability. Do you think that's going to be a big boost for you guys?
Yeah, this is real estate Y2K. The whole world is about to change. And I'm not sure that the folks that, manage the lease portfolios for large corporates are totally on their game here, because I don't see them as vividly and energetically moving on this as they should be. But it's a really basic point. They are accustomed to signing 5 and 10 or 20-year, 30-year obligations. And correctly, the accountants are about to ask them to show that obligation the way they show other obligations like debt.
And so fundamentally what will happen is if you have an expensive office lease, it's going to look on your balance sheet like you have more debt.
Yes, bad for balance sheets. Companies aren't going to like that. And it's going to impair earnings. Like you thought you signed a great lease deal because, Blackstone, to induce you into their latest investment, gave you a really low cost first couple of years. Now your P&L looks good for the next 2-3 years until you, the executive, have to, take off your golden handcuffs. Well, those corporate executives won't be able to make that move. They're going to have to show P&L cost of a flat line long-term lease, what is the first-year cost, same as over the period. So both balance sheet and P&L long-term leases are going to look a lot worse than they ever looked in the past. Putting it into a flexible space provider's platform like us, Flexible Office, is going to remove. I mean, we're reducing their obligation. They don't have to stay for 30 years. Mm-hmm. We all know, investors, accountants, everyone knows that the company, if it's in business, will have some cost 30 years from now and next year and this year.
Would you ever get into the business of managing corporate headquarters, like giant office campi for a fee?
Yeah, we'll do it. We're in due time. We have a enormous opportunity serving all these 200, 500 person, 1,000 person companies. They're all around the city. They're the most lively employers. They're faster to move and make decisions. But we have been seeing more and more inbound from big corporates, and they want to look young again, and their teams hate working in headquarters. Their engineers hate working in headquarters. Their creative people hate working in headquarters. They have inflexible workplace cultures and inflexible workplaces, which are actually bad for many other stakeholders, like women who are maybe finding it more difficult to work near home one day a week or come into the office at a different time. Or some of these alternative arrangements that we describe as cultural actually have a lot to do with the workplace and the network of office that you have available. And these corporates will be able to solve some of these problems about the engineers who hate them, the innovators who hate them, the creatives who hate them, and their diverse workforces who hate them by using folks like us.
And so you're at over 600,000 square feet total now, your entire footprint. What's the goal by the end of 2018? How many square feet do you want to have?
It'll be several million. Let's see how many several
million.
Yeah. But we will absolutely do more. I think the one thing we won't do is slavishly imitate what Regus did over 30 years and build this really sclerotic 115 countries kind of game plan. Sadly, I think I do see, for example, WeWork doing that, and I'm not sure it makes sense. I think if you're doing corporate satellite offices, maybe you want to have an office in Marrakesh and in Cairo and whatnot, but those aren't like the big, deep productive
I thought
markets.
the appeal is it appeals to big global companies because they can have an office wherever they go.
Yeah, and I hope that those big global companies put their Marrakesh office in Regus or WeWork. I don't care. I'm not going to make that much money in Marrakesh. I have no intention. But we're going to run tons and tons of offices in the big, deep markets. The places where you want to put 100 or 500 or 1,000 people, you're going to do that deal with me. If you need a glass box for 5 people who, do the aftermarket service and support for the copiers that you sell in some region, send those guys to co-working or to professional suites.
Thanks, Amol, for joining us today.
Pleasure.